The art of beginning again. Every rebirth begins with a moment of courage, the courage to stand back up when the world still expects you to fall. Original quote by Min Kwang Le. The wound. Pain is the place where transformation secretly begins. When everything feels like it has ended, there are days when the world feels impossibly heavy. Not because of what happened, but because of all the meaning we attach to what happened. You wake up and feel the weight of all the undone things. The conversations you wish you could take back, the dreams you once held tightly, but now seem unreachable. Sometimes it isn't to even one big tragedy. It is the accumulation of 100 quiet disappointments. And in those moments, you whisper to yourself, maybe I'm not meant to rise again. But here, as the paradox of human life, rock bottom often becomes the foundation of your greatest rebuilding. Just like the phoenix must burn before it flies again, your breaking point is rarely the end. It is the birthplace of your reinvention. The wound is your first teacher. Wounds teach with a clarity that comfort never could. They strip away illusions. They force you to confront truths you've avoided. They make you choose between hiding from life or walking through the fire. Consider John Newton, the man who wrote Amazing Grace. Before he became a voice of hope for millions, he was a broken sailor, shipwrecked, enslaved, and lost inside the darkness of his own choices. His wound, both physical and moral, became the very doorway that transformed him into a symbol of redemption. Wounds do not just hurt, they awaken. They wake you to your values. They wake you to what matters. They wake you to who you truly are beneath everything the world tried to make you become. When your pride cracks, your heart begins to glow again. Pride convinces you that you must always be strong. But when pride cracks, humility walks in. And humility is the birthplace of true courage. Think about Ulysses S. Grant. Once a failed farmer, a bankrupt businessman, and a man dismissed from the military for drinking. He was humiliated publicly, considered finished, considered irrelevant. Yet in the ashes of his pride, something awakened. He rebuilt himself from scratch, returned to the military, and eventually became the general who turned the tide of the Civil War, then later the President of the United States. If Grant had protected his pride instead of letting it break, his greatness would have remained buried. Sometimes your heart glows brightest right after it cracks. The moment you want to give up is the moment your soul is about to shift. That moment, the quiet, suffocating one, when you feel like walking away from everything. That is the moment right before the breakthrough. Not after, not during, but right before. This is the soul threshold. The invisible line between who you were and who you are really about to become. Look at Ludwig van Beethoven. By age 30, he began losing his hearing, the one sense his entire career depended on. He considered giving up entirely, even considered ending his life. But that very breaking point, that final darkness, became the moment he decided, I will not surrender my music. And from that moment came his greatest masterpieces, after he had gone deaf. The moment you want to give up is rarely the end. It is the wall you must push through to meet your future self. Wounds don't close to end you. They close to reveal a new version of you. Scars are not shame. Scars are signatures of survival. They say, I was broken, and I rebuilt myself. Look at Harriet Tubman, born enslaved, beaten until unconscious, left with permanent injuries, yet she rose from her wounds to become one of the greatest liberators in history. Her scars did not define her, they refined her. Your scars are not reminders of pain. They are reminders of what you overcame and what you are still capable of becoming. Rebirth begins in silence, long before the world sees the flames. Every comeback begins quietly before it burns bright. The world only notices the explosion. It forgets the spark. But that spark, the timid, shaking, fragile spark, is the real miracle. Think of Vincent van Gogh. He painted over 900 works but sold only one in his lifetime. No applause, no validation, no spotlight. But alone in the quiet, he kept painting. He kept igniting that tiny spark inside himself. His fire outlived him, outshone him, outgrew him. Great fires are always born in silence. You don't need to be strong immediately. You just need not to go dark. Strength is not a switch. It is a slow-burning wick. You don't need to roar. You just need to glow. This is the lesson of Nelson Mandela. Not the famous leader, but the quiet prisoner who once sat alone in a cold cell on Robben Island. He didn't rise with rage. He rose with patience. With one small refusal each day, the refusal to let his spirit go dark. You don't have to be unstoppable today. You just have to resist the pull of darkness. No one sees the process of you lighting yourself back up. People will see your results, but never your rebirth. They see the mountain summit, not the bruised knees. They see your strength, not the nights you cried quietly into your pillow. They see your fire, not the hours you spent trying to ignite it. Even Marie Curie, the first woman to win a Nobel Prize, worked in a rundown shed, stirring radioactive material by hand with no applause and no recognition. Her greatness was forged in unseen hours. So is yours. People shine the brightest after walking through their own ashes. Ashes are not symbols of destruction. Ashes are the soil of rebirth. Take Walt Disney, fired from his first job because he lacked imagination, bankrupt at 22, laughed at by industry executives, but he rebuilt from ashes. And from those ashes rose the most magical storytelling empire on earth. People who walk through ashes don't shine despite their past. They shine because of it. Rebirth begins inside, the lesson of those who burned all the way down. The people who rise highest are rarely the ones who had it easiest. They are the ones who broke deepest, loved hardest, tried longest. Consider Cicely Tyson, who grew up in poverty, rejected repeatedly, told she would never make it. Yet she carved a legendary career that changed the landscape of film and representation forever. Her rebirth wasn't external, it was internal. So is yours. Rebirth is not a return. It is a transformation. When you rise again, you never return as the same person. You don't go back to the old you. You evolve into someone who understands the cost of growth. Someone who has touched their own darkness and still chose light. Someone who has lost and still chose hope. Someone who has been broken and still chose to rebuild. That version of you is rare, sacred, untouchable. Beginning again is not failure. It is the privilege of the brave. To begin again means you survived something that tried to end you. It means you refuse to let your story be written by circumstances. It means you chose authorship over victimhood. Think of Franklin D. Roosevelt. Paralyzed from the waist down at 39, a devastating blow for anyone, especially a politician. People believed his career was finished, but he began again. Not with legs, but with will. He became the longest-serving U.S. president in history. Beginning again is not weakness. It is a declaration of strength. When you master the art of beginning again, endings no longer scare you. Endings used to feel like death. Now they feel like transitions. Because once you've survived your own collapse, you realize nothing can end me. I always rise. This makes you unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you grow stronger. True maturity. Learning to lift yourself. You learn that no one else can walk your road. No one else can heal your wounds. No one else can rise for you. And strangely, this truth, though heavy, sets you free. This was the wisdom of Leonardo da Vinci, who spent years alone studying, experimenting, and failing quietly before becoming the greatest polymath the world has ever known. Independence is not isolation. It is self-respect. From today on, begin again. Wherever you are, no matter what you've lost, you are not defined by your lowest moment, your biggest mistake, your most painful loss. You are defined by your capacity to rise again. Everything you need is still within you. Every chapter ahead is still unwritten. Every dream you buried is still waiting for you to come back for it. So today, whisper to your reflection, I am not done. I am not broken. I am beginning again. Begin again, not because you failed, but because your spirit refuses to stay where it no longer grows.